Next on Boy Man King.
At the beginning of 2024, I sent out a tweet. I said, 2024 will not be my year. I said, I'm going to give it to God and see what he can do with it. And when I tell y'all he wrecked my year, I had a business fail. My wife had a miscarriage. Her mother has been suffering with Alzheimer's. She passed away in April. Like every day it was something else. And I'm on my knees like, God, like, why are you taking me through this?
What's up, family? It's your man, Coach Crump, and it's another episode of the Boy Man King podcast where the journey continues. And I'm with my main man, my co-host, Chizzy. Say what's up to the people.
My guy, man, what's going on? Happy Sunday to you. Happy Sunday to you. I'm excited to be here. We got a guest in the building. We'll get a shout out. Chase Livingston's in the building. We gonna make it. What's up,
man? We blessed by the best, man. Grateful and thankful to have a mighty man of God, a leader, entrepreneur, a speaker, somebody who's just, man, doing it the right way. We're honored to share the platform with the likes of none other than Chasing Greatness. Chase Livingston is in the building, man. Welcome to the platform, brother.
Oh, wait, hold up. Y'all was talking about me when y'all was saying those things?
Yeah,
wow, appreciate it. That is awesome.
Hey, never miss leg day. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Man, that's right. Hey, and I get my chocolate chip cookies too. So
okay.
Look, we all share that space. Chocolate chip cookies. Yeah, we already know. You're in the right place, bro.
You're not triggered. You're not triggered. Chizzy, calm down.
Yeah.
Calm down.
No, he talk.
Hey,
you know what I'm saying?
Listen. When you guys come to Texas next,
y'all
are gonna have to drop by. We'll get in a leg day and we'll wrap it up with some cookies.
Okay,
bro. Y'all after my true heart, man. Look, Crump's acting like, he's acting like when I come to Atlanta and buy cookies, that he's not the one that goes in the bag first. Don't let him fool you. He's a cookie monster too. So yeah, he's playing coy right now, but we get it.
No, I'm going to eat the cookies. The leg day though, I might stretch. Right. So I got a mean stretch game for you, bro. My stretch game.
Well, hey, I was gonna say, hey, maybe we just pump up the guns, do a little biceps, a little triceps,
I got that. You know what I'm saying? Because I got to keep, I got to keep it together. You know what I'm saying? I can do that. You know what I mean?
I'm just going to leave that one alone, kid. I'm just going to leave that one alone.
So, funny story on the cookies. I'm working on a new book. I actually just published one book, and it's like, man, I have no downtime. It's like I'm already working on the next one, right? And I was writing a story out today, and I was talking about this concept of, I come home from a workout, right? And I'm a trainer, so I got to make sure I'm eating right, staying on top of my diet. Like, I got to set the example. And I come home and I'm hungry, right? I'm like, okay, I got to get some protein. I'm going to get some like carbs. I'm going to do all of it, right? So I go up to the fridge and I open it up and we got nothing. I'm like, okay, slam the door. I slide over to the pantry. I open it up, nothing. Then I look over across the room at the cookie jar. I'm like,
Triple C, bro. Triple C.
So I go over and I open up the lid. It's like a brand new bag of Oreos got dropped in there. I'm like, okay, I can have one, right? Yeah. Like everything in moderation. Like I can have one cookie. One cookie's not going to do anything, right?
Nobody.
But y'all know how the saying goes. You can't have just one.
With the same. You say if you want. One is not going to do it, bro.
Well, this story is going. Nobody eats one cookie, brother.
So I start eating 1, 2. I hit the whole jar. Like, I downed a glass of milk to go with it. And then afterwards, I was like sick in my head, right? I was like, man, you idiot. Like, you're a trainer. You're supposed to be setting the standard.
Your gains for the week.
That messed up my whole caloric intake. So anyways, yeah, that's fresh on my mind. So I love cookies, but yeah, I gotta make sure I I keep them off to the side, make sure I have some healthy snacks too. Try to find that balance.
Yeah, and we're going to cover a lot of that in this episode. We want to focus. I know you're in the health and fitness space. There are a lot of things. I mean, your resume, you have a plethora of stuff that you're involved in, youth development, mental health, mental wellness. You do a lot of stuff in the community, man. Texas, you said Texas. So we're talking about Dallas, Texas. What Dallas? Is it Dallas?
I'm about 2 hours northeast of Dallas. So I'm in a city called Texarkana. They call it Texarkana because we're on the cusp of Texas, Arkansas, and Louisiana. I literally, like, the state line is my backyard.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in Texas right now, but I literally could walk to Arkansas in a few steps, right?
Sure.
All right, so that's where I'm at.
we
Born
see
and
you at
raised in Texas, been here
right.
forever, right?
So the man that we see today, as I look behind you, as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. Let's take us on a journey of Chase growing up in Texarkana. What was it like growing up? What was the family circumstances like?
Yeah.
What you were exposed to? Because we're trying to paint a picture for our listeners and for our viewers to say, arriving at kingship is a journey. As we talk about, the journey continues. Let's paint the picture for everyone to see that, the man that you see in front of you today have been through stuff.
Yes. Yes.
And so speak to that a little bit.
Yeah.
Growing up in
So
Texas.
I wish we could like hang out like all night, because I would like take y'all all the way back, like origin story, like from day one. But let me just like give you the past like 3 to 4 years if I can.
Sure.
So 2020, right? You guys remember 2020? We don't like to remember how that went down, but that was probably the most important year for my life, right? So January 2020, I had my firstborn son, me and my wife. She was my girlfriend at the time.
Okay.
And so I had the son, and you're talking about the sign behind me, so I'm fixing to hit the spiritual piece. In that moment, the moment I had him was like when I came back to God. Like I got saved whenever I was a kid, but man, I was a wayward son, and I was like living for myself. I was out in the world. I was trying to fulfill fleshly desires, doing that whole thing, right?
Yeah.
And the moment, the moment he was born, it was like I got convicted of all of my sin, just to kind of touch on this for a moment. And I realized, man, there are so many things that I went through. There were so many rooms that I was in. There was some stuff on the table, if you know what I'm saying, that I never want my son to go through.
Sure.
And I said, God, I know it's been a while, but I said, I need you in his life, because I know there's going to be some rooms that I'm not in, that he's in, that I need you in. Fact. I know there's going to be some people who confront him that I can't defend him, and I need you to be there. Like I need you in him to make sure he makes the right decisions when I can't be there. And so like this crazy, like coming back to God moment happened. And since then, like me and my wife, we've really been pursuing the Lord. And I'll tell you something interesting. At the beginning of 2024, I sent out a tweet.
Yeah.
I said, 2024 will not be my year. I said, I'm going to give it to God and see what he can do with it. And when I tell y'all he wrecked my year, I had a business fail. I had, my wife had a miscarriage just before this year. And then we came into this year, had another miscarriage.
Yeah.
My wife, her mother has been suffering with Alzheimer's. She passed away in April. Wow. So it was all of these things literally happening week after week. It felt like every day was a gut punch. Like every day it was something else. And I'm on my knees like, God, like, why are you taking me through this? And I can remember in January thinking like, hey, this like, I know I said like, it's a cool tweet. Like I'm going to give this year to God, but I know like on the inside, I'm like, hey, I'm fixing to go all in. Like this is like, I'm fixing to blow up my business. Like It was a cute tweet, but I didn't know I was like he was actually going to take it.
Yeah, for sure.
So in January 2024, this year, I said, God, give me a word for this year. I need a word. And he led me to Genesis, and I'm reading about the story of Abraham, and he said, I will make you exceedingly fruitful, and you will be a king among nations. And I said, I like the sound of that. Exceedingly fruitful. I said, okay, I want that. So I started to look into this, and he led me to Leviticus. Now, I don't know if y'all like reading the book of Leviticus, but I'm in here, and there's a law in the book of Leviticus that says that for the first 3 years that you plant a tree, you are not to eat of the fruit. In the 4th year, that year the fruit is holy to the Lord. You set it apart for the Lord. And then in the 5th year, that's the year that you can start partaking of the fruit. You can actually start enjoying it for yourself and selling it and doing all of that different kind of stuff, right? So from 2020 to 2023, I was not supposed to eat the fruit. This is the time I came back to God. So that's when the tree got planted, right? That's when the tree started to bear some fruit. But I could not eat from that fruit. I was too young in my Christian walk to actually start sharing and really pouring into other people and giving something that people could take away. The fourth year, which is this year, when I said I'm going to give it to God, I had no idea what I was actually saying. That He was like, no, you're right. Everything that you get this year is for me. It is set apart. It is holy to the Lord. And what I want some of your listeners to understand today is the hard times that you go through, these valleys, the miscarriages, the failing business, the loss of a loved one. These things are holy to the Lord because of what is created within you. Those things are holy to the Lord. He cherishes those things because that's when we really draw near to Him. That's when we really grow in Him. So I lead all of that up to say that 2025, I'm ready to bear some fruit.
Fruit, you bear fruit.
And I'm ready to share it with the world. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm really about to go all in. So that's just a little bit of a backstory.
And the greater takeaway, because people hear adversity, they think about year 1, they think about year 2, they think about year 3, they think about year 4, and that's really at the cost of when your faith gets at the greatest. Because now you're climbing the mountain top, and it gets rockier, it gets colder, it's less oxygen, and that's the difference. That's the difference maker right there between getting to that point, to that pinnacle, and receiving your blessings. Some people don't even make it to that 3rd and 4th year. So I can definitely relate to your story, and more importantly, you know, it goes back to something that I keep in the back of my head that continuously plays in my spirit is seeking God first, and all of these things will be added unto me.
Yes.
And so the benefit is not so that there's an outcome. It's not because I want to get something from God. It's really and truly because I genuinely want to seek Him first.
Yes.
And people sometimes misconstrue that phrase and that scripture to mean, all right, I'm going to do this so I can get this. Or I'm going to do this because there's a benefit to me and my family. No. You're missing the point completely. It's about seeking His face first. Sometimes I wish they could just strip that last part of the scripture out. So people would say, seek ye first the kingdom of God and His righteousness.
That's it. Just do that.
Because that's all that's really necessary. But yeah. I don't want to go on this tangent, but I love that. I like how you framed it. Go ahead, Crump. Go ahead, jump in, man.
I thank you for sharing, man. You know, God, you know, in the spiritual, you know, we don't get a chance to go deep on the spiritual side, but Chase, I thank you for kind of talking about our faith, and we're men of faith, and God does the pruning before He does the booming. You know what I mean? And so what happens, the supernatural is direct opposite of the natural. And so, you know, we think the investment is for us to get better, but it's for us to get deeper, you know? And so a lot of work that God does is He does on the heart, He does on the mind, He does on the soul. And so, you know, a lot of people that have a spiritual awakening, you mentioned the birth of your son, that brought you back to Christ. I know Chizzy has testified through his rededication, but I remember my rededication. It's funny that we're having this conversation. I rededicated my life in 2012, and it was more about just the discipline that God had me on the work that He needed me to do with my time, with my money, and with His word. And so it's funny that you mentioned, you know, those 3 years, because I went next level. We just went through our first 3 years, and we said 25 is going to be our greatest year. I've been having some time with God, feeling like, you know, 25 is going to be the year that I blow up. And it's going to be because of the pruning that we've been through, that I've been through, that not because I have some ideas and goals and ambitions, but I know the pruning that I had to go through to get to this point. And so I was like, now just talking about it's time. Because I've been through that, getting deeper with God. Because I went through it these last couple of years, I'm not going to lie to you, reluctantly. Because of that 2012 experience, I know the cost. It's like when you rededicate your life to Christ, you kind of know what it costs you to kind of get that. So like this time around, and I had the conviction in my spirit, I'm like, I don't want to pay again. Look, let me just woosah And we could just keep this little situation going because last time it cost me so much that I don't know.
Yeah.
And man, these last 3 years, I had a panic attack. I've never had a panic attack in my life. I've been traumatized in my marriage like I've never been traumatized before. My business partner marriage was completely traumatized like it's never been traumatized before. Just those type of like things that I wouldn't even think of that would happen to me in this getting prepared for, right?
Yes.
And you know this, when we talk about the physical, I always tell, and I'm going back to you guys, it's amazing that we struggle in the spiritual when we have such a practical example in the physical, in the sense that if you want to get your body right for real, you would have to beat it up. Yep. You would have to literally work out and you be tired. You would have to work out and you be hurting. You would have to work out and be sore. You would have to work out and don't feel like it. Like your feelings, your condition, your ailments, like none of that would matter. You would still not just want the results, you would still have to do the work. But for whatever reason, humans, we really struggle with, oh, God called me. I've been convicted, or God brought me my wife. Oh, since God brought me my wife, I'm good. Oh, since I'm paid now, I'm good. Since I got a job now, I'm good. And it's like, nah, bro, you really have just started. The biggest thing you have to start is the work.
Yes.
And you have to do the work reluctantly. You have to do the work when you're tired. You have to do the work when you're sore. And you have to do the work when you don't feel like it. That's part of sharpening your discipline, your obedience. You know what I mean? Controlling your flesh. That's why. You know what I mean? Like, so, man, thank you for kind of taking the platform in that conversation.
I love that y'all are talking on discipline. I went back and looked up the meaning of that word, and like the etymology, when you look at the history of the word, it means to scourge one's flesh. It means to tear out your flesh. Like, think about that. Discipline, you have to do things, like you said, that you don't want to do. In fact, there was a whip back in the day, the early Christians, that they would whip themselves with to beat themselves like into submission as a form of discipline. And they called it a discipline. So it's interesting that Jesus calls us his disciples, and he got whipped with the cat of nine tails, probably called it a discipline back then. That's why your parents say, hey, if you don't act right, I'm about to discipline you.
Sure.
Right? It goes back to that whip. It goes back to that. And that's exactly what it feels like when we do those things that we don't want to do, is we're tearing out parts of our flesh. We're not getting to, I don't mean to jump on you here, Chizzy, but sit on the couch and eat cookies, right? We've got to tear away at that and go get in the gym and hit the legs. It's like we've got to do the things that we really don't want to do. Make the call, send the emails, whatever it is, because that's what discipline is. It's tearing away at the stuff that doesn't serve you.
There's reps are important. Physical reps, spiritual reps, they're vital to anything. As you know, as a practicing personal trainer, as a practicing personal coach, as a practicing personal spiritual developer, those reps are important. And as Crump was saying, like, we struggle with, it's easy to tangibly see results of physical discipline because, you can see the cuts coming. Either way, you can see cuts coming when you're working out, or you can see a belly growing if you're not working out. But in the spirit world, we tend to really dismiss what it feels like and what it looks like and how it sounds and how we internalize that spiritual discipline that we do not get and we can get. And that's the most difficult one to really achieve. But it's also the greatest one to achieve once you actually go through the process of pruning yourself spiritually. And so, me as a newbie, I kind of see myself still somewhat as a newbie. Like, to give you a little story about me, I talk openly about it. My dad was in the room. My dad's pastor. I grew up in church my entire life. You know what I mean? But in spite of the fact that I knew and I heard it and I saw it and was part of the ritual of religion for me, it's only when you start to really say, all right, I have to have a spiritual encounter. I have to have a relationship encounter with Christ, where you really start to experience not just the struggles, but more importantly, the joy that comes with this particular journey and this particular choice. And it's almost like an aha moment where you're like, I could have been doing this all this time. Like I'm in my 40s, close to 50, and now I'm having revelation. I'm having more peace than I've ever experienced, more joy than I've ever experienced. And it's not because everything is working out and I live in this big house and I have all access stuff. It's because at the end of the day, internally and spiritually, I'm getting more reps in than I've ever gotten in my entire life. And so the takeaway for me, for anyone that's listening is, yes, there are benefits to walking in the kingdom. There are benefits to spiritually developing yourself, the physical and tangible benefits, but the emotional, the spiritual, and more importantly, the kingdom benefits that you get far exceed anything that you can achieve, on this earth physically. You know what I mean? So I like how this conversation is, man. I love it. It's
and
good.
Chase, as a man, like I know, we kind of went spiritual, but what led you from that spiritual conviction with your son that has you in the space as a man now, doing the work you're doing as a physical trainer, and developing people's body, but also developing their mind. And so, what kind of took you down that road?
And we don't have to keep it spiritual, but a big part of that was like, my wife, and she was my girlfriend at the time. And occasionally she would ask me, hey, would you ever be interested in going to church or, anything like that? And I'm like, nah, I'm good on that. But then after this moment, with our son being born and that kind of whole transformation type thing, I realized kind of how the structure is supposed to go, right? You have God, and then you're supposed to have the man, and then the man leads the wife and the children, right? You have this like hierarchy. And I realized that there was no hierarchy. It was just like we were just doing the thing. You know what I mean? There was no structure. And we were okay. We were getting by, but that's not the way God intended. That's not the way the design is supposed to work. And so there had to be a point where I said, no, like I'm going to step into like this leadership role. And what happened during the year 2020 with my son and like, coming back to Christ and all this different stuff is I started to see, particularly with youth, but really you see it all over, right? You see people are hurting. You see people who are living far below their potential. You see people who, they have dreams, they have goals, they have desires that maybe they want to get healthy, maybe they want to make more money, maybe they want to build a business, but they're not doing it. They have grown completely complacent. And I was like, this was years ago when I had this. And I was like, is this really the world that I want to live in? Like, do I want to go around every single day and just see people who are living far below what's actually possible? Or is this like maybe, they say that if you don't know what your purpose is in life, look at what agitates you. Like, look at what the problem that you can't get over in the world. Well, that was mine. Like going around and seeing people just like unfulfilled, unhappy. I was like, how do I solve this?
Yeah.
And of course, God's the answer, right? But that's not always how you get through to people, right?
For sure.
The cool thing is, and this has kind of been something that I've been thinking about and studying and really just kind of praying over, is the same, elements that get you healthy and fit in the gym are the exact same elements that can help you become the best version of yourself in life. Like you said, repetitions. I mean, that is like a core principle. Like you don't get better unless you do the reps.
Yep.
And so I started to make these connections like, okay, like maybe I can help build people up in my gym physically. And maybe I can take some of these principles and I can start building up the youth in different areas of their life, And I'm thinking like, these kids are struggling in school and stuff. Like my son's going to come up in that. I was like, I got to be a part of that. Like I got to at least speak in that space. Like I got to speak life into that space and like do my part rather than just be on the sidelines and like complain like, man, it really sucks out there. Like, no, like I'm going to get up and do something. Like I can't be all in the gym and have that kind of mentality, like motivating people in the gym and then sitting on the sidelines when it comes to like my son's future.
Right.
But the thing is like, it's not just my son, it's everybody's kids. Right. And like, I just have that heart and I know you guys do as well. Like we just have that desire to help others and make the world a better place. So that's kind of like where I kind of found myself fitting in with all of that kind of stuff.
And it becomes not only is it a desire, it becomes passion. Obviously, it's a responsibility, really and truly.
Yeah.
Especially kingdom men are called specifically. It's a responsibility that you have to share that message, to continue to bring people to Christ, to continue to build on families, to continue to build kids, because that's the whole point. God asked his disciples to go to the far-reaching parts of the world and spread the good news.
That's right.
You know what I mean? And so of course, if that's your calling, if ministry and missionary work is your calling, cool. But we definitely can adopt a lot of these principles right in our homes, in our home countries, in our home areas. You in Texas, Crump in Atlanta, I'm real in Scotland. You know what I mean? So it's definitely something that we're called to do that's vital to building the kingdom, and it's enriching and it's necessary. And it's a real less trouble. We've come to understand, like Chris was saying, we've done this work at various levels for I've done it almost 20 years. And it's just who you are.
Yeah.
And if it's who you are, then you're called to do it. It's just by extension, it's an extension of who you are. So that's an amazing space to occupy. Tell people a little bit about what's a day like in Chase's existence in this amazing work that you're doing in the personal training space, in the youth development space. What does a day look like for you currently?
Well, it probably looks a whole lot less. It looks a whole lot less like how it looks on Instagram. We share the highlights online. But yeah, I mean, I will tell you guys, the one thing for me is finding ways to be more flexible.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in a place right now where I'm juggling 2 or 3 different things, right? I'm training for a few hours a day, and then I'm working on the speaking business. And then we've got a nonprofit we run as well. I mean, there's all these different things. And it almost, like I'm on my desk right here, it almost can feel like there's all these papers stacking up to where stuff starts sliding off, right? And that's like the importance of having like structure and organization and proper priorities and all that kind of stuff. But to kind of break it down for you, like I wake up at 5, sometimes 4:30. Mm-hmm. And I have to have that first hour of the day. Like that first hour of the day, that's first fruit for the Lord, right? I'm praying, maybe doing some reading. I'm drinking my coffee. I'm kind of getting in my space. I'll plan my day, all that kind of stuff, like right then. Then I usually launch into a couple of training sessions. After that, if I'm not traveling anywhere, if I'm not doing anything, then it's like, it's outreach. It's trying to build the speaking business, right? It's sending emails. It's cold calls. It's doing all of the not so cool, not so fun stuff that comes with that aspect of the business.
Sure.
There might be a part in the day where I'm doing some writing. There might be a part in the day where I'm recording a podcast. There might come a day where I'm shooting some content or doing something like that. So there's always that creative element in the day. And then once we get later in the evening, I'm back to training. There's always, like, for trainers, you got early mornings and you got late evenings. And then there's this huge gap in the day. And I like to call this gap in the day grind time. Because that's like the time where it's like that creative flow starts to happen. I'm firing off on the emails. I'm shooting video. I'm editing stuff. And I'm doing all this different stuff. And right now, it's really difficult. I had a conversation just the other day. I'm getting to the point where I'm about to have to start to play the leverage game. Like, I've got to start getting some of this stuff into other people's hands because, like, I just can't. Like I said, stuff's falling off the desk. Stuff's slipping through the cracks. And I'm getting to a point where I can't manage it, right?
Yeah.
And so there's this whole concept, this principle of like, I'm trying to hold on to the money that I've got. That way I can kind of stack up and stuff. But y'all know what happens when you hold on tight to something. You kind of restrict the flow. You've got to let go so you can grab onto something else, grab onto something a little more. So that's kind of where I'm at. And especially moving into 2025, that's what it looks like. The other thing I'll say is I got to make time for family every day, right? Yeah. If that means playing on the floor with my kid, he's 4 years old. I want to make sure I do that. I want to make sure I'm spending time with my wife. So many people say, hey, everybody's got the same 24 hours in a day. Well, it's like, do you? Like, because I probably got 21. Because 1 hour a day.
Intentionality matters for sure.
I got about 21 days or 21 hours where I can do something. The first hour, that belongs to God.
Yeah.
There's an hour in the day that's got to be my family, at least an hour, right? And then there's that 1 hour where I'm going to get my workout in, or I'm going to do some sort of personal growth time. Maybe it's extra time in prayer. Maybe it's writing, something like that. So, Yeah, we all got 24 hours, but I go ahead and limit myself to 21. I got 21 to get business done.
Right. It's funny because we ask almost all of our guests, what's the 3 non-negotiables in their day? I didn't even ask you the question, and you said it. You said in particular what those 3 non-negotiables are, and it speaks volumes to consistency and the outcomes that's necessary to take it to the next level, whether it's in business, whether it's in spirituality, whether it's in your family time. You know, there's no, like, success is not a mistake. You just don't wake up one day and be like, yeah, I just fell into something that just happened to work. Maybe some people tell some stories out there that are not quite truthful as it relates to that, but make no mistake about it, there are definitely non-negotiables that are necessary to build, to continue to build on every area of your life. And you articulated it well, similar to if you ask Chris Crump the same thing, you ask me, it's the same thing. And of course, everyone has a varying level of success, but there's non-negotiables have to be there. There is incumbent upon you, or anyone, to have those non-negotiables, because if you want to be successful, consistency and intentionality are vital components to that. Coach Crump, man, what you pondering over there, bro?
Man, I'm just enjoying the conversation. Chase, man, just really grateful and thankful for you, man. Tell us where people can learn about what you got going on and how they can follow you.
Yeah, so of course I'm also on all social platforms at Chase Inspires, one word, ChaseInspires. And then of course I've got my website, www.chaseinspires.com. So it's all Chase Inspires. Y'all can find me on all platforms. I'm real big on Instagram. Man, I've been on Threads lately. Like, I've been going all in on Threads. I don't know, like, I guess everybody's mad at Twitter, so everybody came over there, but it's like, it's kind of fun. So
hold on, Threads, I want to understand what Threads is, like a Twitter version on Instagram? Okay.
Yeah.
Are you on there, Coach?
Don't say that out loud. She said, man, we got that on record. You should ask me offline. I would have.
No. Because I know I'm not the only one. Because I look at it, I'm like, what's the difference between Threads and Instagram? Because sometimes it could be these same people, same content. I'm like, what is it? I get it. They're trying to scale it.
Yeah. It's growing too. So, I mean, they're going to launch ads in January 2025. So I think it's about to really blow up and stuff. But yeah, I mean, on all social platforms and in my website as well, you can find me.
So talk to the people about, if you could give a man, today, who's on his journey, he's fighting, he's trying to figure it out, or he's becoming a king. What would be your last, thing you would like to share with our platform to the men who are listening and the women who are learning on what it takes to, be a king and on that journey of kingship?
Yeah. And I know we've been on the spiritual kick, so I think that we should stay there, but I would say submit.
Yeah.
And people hear the word submit, especially submit to God. Man, I'm going to give it to God. We don't really understand what that means. Give it to God. We think that means we give up. And we just hope he does something with it. But when we say we're giving it to God, that means we're going to stop doing it our way, and we're going to read the Bible and learn how his way dictates that we do things. How we run our business, how we manage our family, how we talk and treat people. That's what it means to give it to God. And so that's what I would say, like, submit yourself to his ways. And you only learn that through reading his Bible or through reading his word, right? You get in there and you learn what the principles, what the precepts, what the concepts are. And that's really what's going to help you. Of course, you still got to have that prayer time. You still got to have that time in worship. But there is something special about, like, the first time you read the Bible, it's boring. You got to get through it. You got to get that word in you. But after that, that's when it gets fun, because he'll lead you places. He'll show you things. He'll start sticking stuff out at you. Then it's like, oh, that's how God speaks. Like, and that's just like, that fires you up, especially as a man. Like, when we talk about that hierarchy, you've got to submit yourself under God, because he knows best. His ways are far greater than ours, and our understanding is so limited compared to his. And I don't know about y'all, but, like, I want to know what his plan is, because like, then I can see things from a different level. You know what I mean? So that's definitely what I would say, is just submit.
Yeah, well, we'll say this in the culture, and I'll let Chizzy have the final word. But man, you real oily. You know what I mean? And all that means is that you got the anointing, man. Thank you for just letting God use you on our platform.
That's a huge compliment.
Yeah, man.
I'd rather be anointed than popular.
Yeah, your final thought.
I just want to say, if there's a brother out there, I mean, I have a God focus and I go at measurement and radar. You know what I mean? So, but if there's a brother out there that wants to learn about wisdom, I did a 31-day read of Proverbs. So for the month of October, read Proverbs, a chapter, a verse a day. If you want to learn about wisdom, it covers so many different spectrums. If you're reading, probably Chase looks like he knows exactly what I'm talking about. Proverbs, for any brother out there, if you want to do a dive, get a good version of it. King James version can sometimes be difficult to read. Get a new international version or a good version that you can relate to. Read Proverbs 1 to 31. If you just want to whet the appetite for what it means, what it looks like to be disciplined, to have wisdom. It's written by Solomon. You can definitely gain a lot from Proverbs 1 to 30. So that's my takeaway for anybody watching me. Jump into Proverbs. It's an eye-opener. It did for me, bro.
It is.
Yeah, man, I want to say thank you guys again for tapping into the Boy Man King podcast. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Man, follow us on Instagram at Boy Man King Talk. Man, thank you for our entire team. And as we say on the Boy Man King pod, man, the journey continues. Y'all be blessed. We out.
Be blessed, man. Appreciate you.